Welcome to Mortgage on My Mind, where we take the mystery out of mortgages and make dreams of home ownership a reality. I'm Natalie Salins, a top 1% mortgage broker with 20 years of experience, based right here in sunny Los Angeles. If you've ever wondered about pre-approvals, appraisals, or what loan product is right for you, don't worry, I've got Mortgage on My Mind, so you don't have to. Each week, I'll bring you expert advice, real-life stories, and insider tips to help you navigate California's competitive real estate market with confidence. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or just curious about how it all works, this podcast is for you. So let's talk mortgages, demystify the process, and make your real estate goals a reality. Ready to get started? Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mortgage on My Mind. I'm Natalie Salins, and I'm here today with the incredible Lorraine Getz. Lorraine is a seasoned real estate agent professional with over 20 years of experience. She specializes in Los Angeles neighborhoods such as Silver Lake and Echo Park and Highland Park. We call it Nila here. She actually is in my area, like right down the street from me. She achieved over 15.7 million in sales volume in just 2024 alone. Lorraine's dedication to her clients, combined with her expertise, has earned her recognition in Los Angeles as one of the top agents. She is deeply committed to her community and has served on the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council as well, which is so cool because I also own in Silver Lake. And I'm always getting little council member cards and everything, figuring out what's happening in the neighborhood. But welcome, Lorraine. Thank you so much for agreeing to join us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here and talking to you.
Yes, me too. Me too. So, we were going to discuss today the Mills Act and what that means and how it can benefit and affect a buyer when purchasing a home. So, tell us a little bit about it.
I'm a big fan of the Mills Act. It's not easy to come by a building or a property that is under the Mills Act. And I have run across many properties that are considered Mills Act, and I wanted to know more about it. Why is it called the Mills Act?
Right.
When did it come into effect? So it was created by a California state senator named James R. Mills, and he created the Mills Act to there was a developer that wanted to tear down the Hotel del Coronado, which is a
Oh
historic
my goodness. Yes.
hotel in Coronado at the bottom of San Diego. It's absolutely stunning.
Gorgeous.
It was actually just renovated. I'm hoping to go there. But that's how the Mills Act began, was to preserve that property. And so Mr. Mills enacted this to basically reward people who would restore historical buildings. And so we have historical buildings preserved for history and for people to enjoy and to see different architectural styles that have been significant through the growth of California.
Yeah.
And so it's a property tax reduction program, basically. And it can be anywhere from 20 to 70%. And it's really dependent upon the application and how they perceive the property. And so I love when I see Mills Act. We see them a lot on the north side of LA, Nila. A lot of the downtown buildings, like the Eastern Building, the Biscuit Loft Building, all the condos in there are Mills Act because the building is Mills Act. And property taxes are approximately 1.25% of your purchase price. So
As a standard in LA. Yeah.
yeah. And if you cut that just in half, the savings is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
If the building doesn't have it, you can apply for it.
I didn't know. Is it
Yeah.
something that you've ever seen work out beneficially or actually?
Yes, the city hasn't been granting them as often as in the past because obviously this is a revenue
Expensive?
generator for the
Yeah.
city. So it does have to be a significant building, but yes, you can apply for it. I have a client that just bought a building that is very historically significant architecture wise, and they are applying for it. And there is a wait list now, but it's well worth the time. It preserves the building for others to enjoy, including yourself if you're the purchaser of a Mills Act. And it's a big savings financially.
It helps to save historical properties, right?
Correct. So
Yeah,
supposedly they last for 10 years and they're renewed, but I don't, I think they really just keep going perpetually for the life of the property.
got it. And so right now, if somebody wanted to apply, is there a certain year that the house had to have been built beforehand, or is there anything like that?
No, it just has to be like historically significant, a specific architect or an architectural style, but they really like to see the building intact, which means you may not love the original kitchen, but it's historically significant. It's preserving a time in the past that it's preserving. I just went and saw a great building today by Lloyd Wright, and it has very small galley kitchen with a lime green countertop
And
and very high cabinets, and it's very dark, but it's historically significant because it's a snapshot of what the kitchens looked like in the early 60s. And that was
right,
a very modern kitchen at the time.
sure. Frank Lloyd, you would want to keep that and conserve it and not tear it out. It
Correct.
is historical for sure. Excellent. I know that as we were discussing before, like I have a client that is buying this $3.6 million house. And while that's very expensive, that doesn't happen that often. Her taxes would have potentially been around 39,000 for the year. And the property is on Mills Act, and her property taxes are going to be like 8,000, 9,000
That's right.
for the
It's a
year.
giant
I mean,
saving.
an
You know, mortgage,
incredible,
yeah, mortgage you're going to pay off eventually, but the property tax you're going to pay every year for the entire time you own the property. So getting a Mills Act savings is phenomenal.
but I would venture to say it values the property higher.
Absolutely.
Like you can price that property 10% higher because of it, at least.
I just went and toured the House of Tomorrow, which is the Elvis honeymoon house in Palm Springs. And that
Oh,
house right now is listed for around 8 million, which is a very high price tag, but it is Mills Act. And the property tax, I think, was a 60% savings there. So
wow.
significant.
Significant. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it in mortgage terms, that buys you a lot more house. No question.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. I love learning about the Mills Act. I know very briefly about it just from having people tell me. As far as we qualify you, I still have to qualify you based on the standard tax amount. Unless we see a ton of history and documents on the Mills Act. But a lot of the time, I've already qualified people before, of course, the property. And so they do qualify for that kind of property anyway. But yes, I had a property once that was becoming Mills Act and there was no proof of it. And so, of course, we have to just qualify off that 1 point. The tax rate at the time is 1.15.
Right.
So, yeah. All right, wonderful. So then I thought that maybe we could chat a little bit about how to prepare a home, let's say, to maximize a profit on the sale. So what do you think are the key steps for a homeowner
Yeah,
in preparing it?
I think when walking through a home, when I go to meet someone who's going to sell their house, I like to walk through the home and really get a sense of what's there and what can be done for not a lot of money, but a lot that will give that seller a lot of return. And so I think the one big thing I like to see is staging. Not everybody's in the position to move out of their house and have it staged, but
Right.
ideally for a seller, if they can move out, if it's short term to an Airbnb, or they have a friend, or in a situation where they can leave, they're going on vacation. But I think if A seller can move out of their house and stage. I think staging is the biggest asset to a seller. A buyer can really envision themselves in the house when they see a home stage. And also, you can really set the tone of the house. Who's it going to appeal to? What does it look like? You can really make
Right.
it just really set the stage.
Yeah.
That would be my first thing. And then my second thing is when I walk through a house, does it need some interior painting? Does it need some little things fixed? Usually gardening is a big one. I
Yeah.
clean up the yard, plant some flowers. Depending on what the condition is of the yard, it may need some clearance for fire brush and clearance, which
True. For
thing
insurance
now.
now.
That's right. And also just making sure everything has been trimmed and cleaned and really looks its best. And
Yeah.
the painting, like I said, then I also ask the sellers, like, are there any things that you know that are wrong with the house that need to be repaired? And there's like little things, like I think it's great to bring in a handyman, make a list and repair those items. It always is funny that we tend to spruce up our house the most when we're getting ready to sell it. And we don't necessarily enjoy it ourselves,
Care to live in it better. Yeah.
but it will, at the end of the day, really help the sale and help the seller net the most amount.
Yeah.
So those are usually the steps I go through, just noting like things, do doorknobs need to be changed or and windows cleaned, gutter
Right.
cleaned, does the house need a power wash? So just things to really make the house shine to a new buyer.
Yeah. And what would you say are like common mistakes that sellers would make that cost them in their profitability?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to start remodeling and certain things, and they may do it without an agent. They're just, I want to tile this kitchen or I want to tile this bathroom. And that is very specific to a person and their aesthetic taste. And so I
Yes.
usually recommend not to do that. But if they are, it's through their agent who's looking at it through the lens of what's going to appeal most to the majority of buyers that would be appropriate for that property. Because the very decorative tiles that were in a couple years ago, like those aren't in anymore. And so
Totally. Or gray wood on the
the
floor
gray
that
floor,
everybody was
yes.
keeping houses with.
And you walk into a house and you see those gray floors and it says it's a flip.
Depressing. Yes.
Yeah. So I think just making sure that if you are going to be spending a lot of money on something, that you consult with your agent and really make sure that you're putting your money in the best place at the house. That I would not necessarily, if you know you're at the end of the roof life, I don't know if I would necessarily put the money into the roof. I think I would put the money into the painting if you only have a limited budget.
Certain amount. Yeah.
Because the buyer is going to respond to what they're seeing aesthetically, not what they can't see.
And if you need a new roof, let them choose the roof they
Right.
want.
Exactly. And you're gonna spend whatever amount it is on the roof, you're not gonna recoup dollar for dollar.
Never. No, we always say that the fundamentals of our house, as far as value is concerned, are expected to already be there and functioning.
Exactly.
So fixing a foundation, unfortunately, it could cost you 50 grand. It doesn't make the house worth 50,000 more.
Exactly.
Because the value actually encompasses the fact that those standard roof, sewer, foundation are functioning and working.
That's
So
correct.
when, unfortunately, sometimes when things come in and the value is where it is, but you also find out you have to do foundation work, that
Right.
is
Becomes a point where you're gonna have to interact with the buyer and reach an agreement.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's another thing. If I am working with a seller, sometimes you have homes that are older. They may have a lot of deferred maintenance and and then where do you start and where do you end? And sometimes sellers don't want to do the work. Then what I would recommend then is to maybe do pre-inspections. So you
I
get,
was going to ask, do you
yeah,
ever do that in the beginning? Do like not a lot of listing agents do that, and I find it so helpful. for sellers to understand, like, this is what the buyer's going to come back with. Just so you know, they're going to do the inspections. They're going to be like, so this and this. And it would be so helpful if sellers understood and knew and had a preemptive idea of they're going to ask me for 40,000 in repairs because that's what it is.
Exactly. So I think it's good for the seller to know what needs to be done because they don't know usually. They've been living there, or maybe they're not,
Totally.
maybe they're a trustee, but we don't know what we don't see. So if it's under the house and it's not giving you a problem, you just don't know unless you do an inspection, and then that's when you learn what needs to be done. And so I think the pre-inspections can be good for several reasons. A, for the seller to know, oh, these are the things that are wrong with my house, and this is how much it may not cost. And then B, also, if you do have a very desirable home, even though it needs to be fixed, then you can provide those reports to the buyers and be like, Mr. Buyer, here are all the issues. Please
Yeah,
take this into account when you're making your offer.
totally. That's
You don't
the
end up negotiating on the back end.
best. Yeah, that's the best. When inspections are provided up
Yes,
front, then you can get really aggressive. Like, you don't need an inspection period. All the inspections have been given to you, unless there's something on this list that you want to take time to actually investigate further on. But it is wonderful when that happens for my clients to see everything up front, and then you know exactly what you're going to offer based on that.
but the
So helpful.
buyer's usually still going to, I think, do an inspection because they want their own person. But I
Of course.
think up front, they do know, oh, okay, it needs a new roof, or oh, it's original galvanized plumbing that I'm going to need to replace. So they know those things and are taking that into account financially before making that initial offer.
Also, with buyers right now, especially, and we'll get into this with the market, with them being so much on the fence right now because of the current administration and the market and everything that's making people nervous here to purchase, a bad inspection comes in and it just freaks the buyer out. And if they had the wherewithal to understand what they're looking at beforehand, then when their inspections come, it's not like they're backing out that fast.
I'm
Yeah,
hearing of a lot of cancellations right now. I think
yeah,
buyers are very jittery, and if something's coming back that they're not feeling comfortable with, it is a reason for them to cancel.
exactly. And how much easier it is for the seller to not have to deal with that cancellation
Right.
after their inspections, where if they just had the inspections up front, it would be something that the buyer could take a second and absorb the information and then follow through with signing that last counter or whatever it is, you know.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Yeah, yeah, it can help just based on what I'm seeing with my buyers right now. And the people who have backed out based on the beginning of the year and with the market going up and down, it feels a little bit more steady now. The market itself has not had these incredible ups and downs like we did in February and March and April. It's been an interesting time here in LA this year because we had
Yes,
the
it
fires
has.
in January. It's like intense. And then honestly, the markets, March, April, we steadied out in May. But with the market crashing and the market gaining and the market crashing and the market gaining and tariffs and the Fed not wanting to take a step to lower rates, it's all been a little much for us Californians.
It's been a little topsy-turvy for sure. I think I agree with you. I think the uncertainty with tariffs and stock market, it's really made some buyers very jittery. And
Yeah,
then inventory has increased tremendously. So
yeah,
I think that combined with what's going on, and I think the fires, it's been like an interesting year for sure. Houses that I think are going to sell within minutes of going on the market, and they would have last year, are definitely taking a little more time.
for sure.
Other homes that I think may sit for a little while are selling in days, but it's a really uncertain market right now and definitely transitioning.
Yes, no question. I have clients that at the beginning of the year were like, forget it, I'm buying in Portugal. No joke. And you're like, this is still LA. Like, the housing here is still extremely limited, which leads to appreciating values almost always. I've been in this business now 20 years, and there's only one time that I found, even with a slow market, that values actually came down. And that was, of course, in 2007, 2008. But we came down less than the rest of the country, even. But it feels right now like a buyer market. And LA is so rarely in a buyer market that it's like I'm trying to get it across to my buyers. This is the time. It won't last long. Like,
I think by the time most buyers realize that there's an opportunity, that time has passed. You know,
exactly, because it's fast here, because people jump
yes.
back in quickly when they think they're going to get that deal.
And I think, and I tell my buyers, when you're the most nervous about the market, remember, other buyers are, and that's an opportunity. Just like 2020, right in the beginning of 2020, people got real nervous and people were buying properties and they were getting great buys. And
Deals.
once
Mhm.
everyone got, I think there's always this like leveling out period and absorbing, like, okay, this is where we're at. And then once everyone absorbed where we were at, then everybody decided they wanted a new home, a bigger home, a home with a yard. And I feel like that is where we are right now. We're at this transition period where people are real nervous with the economic and political state that's happening in our country and in California, the fires. But I think people are starting to be like, okay, this is what to expect. And I do see a little bit of leveling out now. I do still think there's good opportunity for buyers right now.
100%. One of my very big agents that I work with has 16 listings right now. It's
Oh
kind of
my gosh.
standard for him. He told me that last weekend he had a total from all 16 listings. He had a total of 28 people come through.
Yeah, I believe it. It's
Like,
been,
that's unheard of.
yeah, it's been a little sleepy.
On those properties that no one walked through, write your offer, man. Write what you want. Like,
That's right.
it's
Buyers
the
can
time.
really have, it's, I think to your point, there's this time won't last long. And then
Exactly.
people, the woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wish I would have, I should have, I could have. Seize the opportunity.
Seize it. In the end of 2023, rates were in the high sevens, low eights. It's like the highest that we had seen. And my buyers that stuck with it, I call them my strong of heart. My strong of heart babies, they got incredible deals in November and December of 23.
Yep.
Because so many people have, I think like the actual numbers is something like for every 1% in interest rate, 15 million people back out of the market. So
Wow.
think about that. For
Haven't
every,
heard that is a crazy stat.
and it's people for fear and people can't qualify anymore.
Right.
It's both reasons. So think for every 1% lower, that's how many people come back into the market. So while interest rates are high, is the opportunity to get in before the mayhem of everyone being able to buy comes back. But not just that. So last year, when my rates fell into the mid to low sixes, I refied all those people that were in the high sevens, low eights into the better rate. And almost all of them had found a 10 to 15% appreciation in the property. So if they were to have waited to buy till last August, the house that was now 1 million is now 1120. So now the loan is larger and now the down payment would have been larger. And regardless of the rate, the payment monthly is going to be larger because the loan is bigger.
Yeah, I practice what I preach and I bought two properties and the interest rates were not good and they still aren't great, but I
Yeah.
know I was able to dictate the sales price because there weren't as many buyers out there because of the interest rates. And I
Yeah.
just know like when they do drop, I'll just refinance.
Exactly. Do you find that there are a lot of people not wanting to leave their departing and purchase new because of the low rate they have, or
I
feels like
have I have some buyers like or sellers, they don't want to sell their home because they have a great rate. And I understand that rationale, but then I have other sellers, they got a great rate when they had it and now they're moving on. I really feel like money shouldn't necessarily or finances dictate the way we want to live our lives. I know it does at the end of the
yeah,
day, but I feel to stay in a house maybe that's not the right size for you, if you can afford to move, you should.
yeah.
Um,
And it's funny because I'm just seeing now people understanding and feeling okay with getting out of the golden handcuffs, we call them. So with getting out of that lower rate. And it's because we're right at this 5.5 year mark, right? So COVID happened in March of 2020, and I can't believe it's been over 5 years, but we are over 5 years since then. And that's normally how long people want to stay in their home anyway. It's 5 to 7 years. And it feels like the shift is happening where they aren't as afraid to just sell and move on and get their next home.
right, and they've gained a lot of equity. Uh,
Ton.
it's a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off. So I think doing the trade-off, you've gained some equity, and yeah, your mortgage rate might not be what it is that you were able to get in 2020, 2021, but you're gonna get a house that suits you better now. And hopefully you've gained equity in the house that's allowing you to make that new purchase.
Exactly. And recover from the higher interest rate. And I try to tell people as much as possible, let's not go back. Let's not, it doesn't matter what it was then. It really doesn't. There was a global pandemic going on. The Fed acted very hastily. It was unnecessary to lower the rate the way they did. And let's just look forward into getting you the house that you want to be in. It matters. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this market and what you're seeing out there?
I'm seeing a lot more inventory, so I'm seeing buyers are being not only cautious, but more choosy. And they can right now. They can wait and know that inventory is going to pop up that may suit their needs better. And so they're being a little bit more particular. I think they're also being more particular with the home itself. So I do think for sellers, it's more important than ever to like really set up your house for best impressions right off the bat, to price it correctly and to
Yeah.
have it look its best, because buyers are savvy and they know how much the house should cost. There's some agents that list houses far below what they are comping out and
There's
should
there's a
be.
few in Nila that are
Yeah.
just known for
That
it.
are notorious, yes. And I think those days are challenging because people know how much a house is worth. So I also think overpricing a house, I think pricing close to where you want to land at the end of the day is like a smart strategy during this time.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because if you price it too low with the intention of, I want 20 offers and I'm going to price it really low, you might not get all those buyers that you were getting previously.
Right. And then the seller will feel upset that
Exactly, that they're not getting the price that you were hoping to obtain by pricing it low.
exactly.
So I just, right now with this current market, I think it's good to price close to what the seller's expectations are, as long as they're realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. And we find Nila is such an interesting place. Let's say 6 to 8 months ago or so, it felt like things were slowing down in LA, but not really in Nila, Northeast LA. And I was like, wow, we just keep going over here. The purchase power is still in effect, but now it does feel a little bit different. It does feel like I'm seeing that sign on that house. It's been there for a few weeks in a row, and normally it only needs one open house and it's done.
That's right. But I
Yeah.
think the thing about being on this side of town is we see homes that are more architecturally unique. Because it's an older part of Los Angeles, you'll have the house a Victorian, you'll have a Tudor or a Spanish or a
Gorgeous
century
mid-century.
modern. And you don't see that necessarily on the west side or in the valley. Those are newer builds in LA. LA really started downtown and grew east and north, and the west side was developed much later, so you don't have as many interesting properties
Character.
architecturally.
Yeah, it's
People are
true.
really love character homes.
Yeah,
And the
it's
east side
special.
is really happening right now with restaurants and stores and music venues. It's an exciting place to be, I think.
It totally is.
But but we live on this side of
I
town, so of
know.
course we're partial.
I'm impartial. Yeah, yeah. Like I was directed very well when I moved here from New York to live on the East Side because it's just, at least at the time, it was much more my vibe. Super diverse and artisty, and everybody walking to restaurants and Sunset Junction and everything. But what it has become is just, I could never have imagined. Crazy. Yeah. Anyways.
It's been really fun to watch.
Yeah. How long have you been in Silver Lake?
I've been in Silver Lake for 14 years now.
Wow.
And before that, I lived on the west side in Venice, and I love Venice. But there's something real special about the east side here, seeing the change, all the unique restaurants and
I know.
retailers. And the west side has become very corporate, and you just see the independence still on the east side, which I just really cherish.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. I'm such a foodie, so I'm right there with you. It's lovely chatting with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
My glasses are really fogging up today. It's warm.
It's a warm day here in LA, everybody. It's a warm day. I know I keep moving up from my chair because my back is up. I've been
It's
doing this a
warm.
lot.
It's warm.
It is warm. Yeah. Woo. All
I
right. Well,
really appreciate this. Was really fun.
it
Thank you.
was fantastic. You have such foresight and thought, and I mean, you're really like learning about the Mills Act, and truly, I've never actually spoken to somebody about what makes a listing its best. So that was really interesting to go over with you. And I think our listeners will get a lot out of it for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everyone. Lorraine's info is going to be in the below. And if you need anything, please reach out to her. I'm sure she's online and everything like that. And join us for the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage on My Mind. If you're ready to start your mortgage journey or have any questions, I'd love to help. With 20 years of experience, I make the process as simple and stress-free as possible. Check the show notes for my contact info, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. Until next time, I'm Natalie Salins, here to help make your real estate dreams a reality.